Well, this very well could be the last video that you see of me on the beach until I return to Miami in November. But today I want to talk about retirement because I see a lot of conflicting information out there, and I kind of wanted to do a video that plays both sides of the coin. And what I'm talking about is I see all kinds of stories out there saying why you should delay retiring as soon as possible. And then I see other stories on the same day about retirement saying 5 reasons to retire as soon as you can. So it's like there's this huge contradiction about when you should retire and when's the optimal time to do it. So I thought it'd be interesting to make a video about it and kind of give people the pros and cons, help you figure out what's the best decision for you. So let's first start off with 5 reasons why you should retire as soon as you can. Because I think more people would probably rather retire sooner than later if possible, right? So the number one thing is that time is your most valuable asset. It's all of our most valuable asset. And nothing we have more valuable than time. And you can always make more money, but you can never create more time. And retiring early gives you options. It gives you the freedom to pursue your passions. You can travel, or you can just relax for a change, or you can just do whatever you want. You can do nothing for a whole week if you feel like it. And the earlier you retire, the more time you will have to enjoy in your retirement. Now, the big caveat here, of course, is that you need enough money to retire sooner than later. So this doesn't really apply if you're somebody trying to catch up and who's worried if you're going to have enough money to retire or not. This is for people who pretty much have already saved enough and are kind of debating, do I keep working or should I just quit now? The second reason to retire early is freedom from burnout. You know, a long career can lead to emotional and physical burnout. People get tired of working. It wears you down mentally and physically, especially depending on the job. And when you're finally able to escape the daily grind and reduce your stress and focus more on things that you need and things that you want in your life and focus on your emotional and physical well-being, it is a huge transformation, and it's something that can really improve your health, especially in your later years. So a lot of retirees say that their biggest regret isn't that they retired too early, it was that they worked too long and they missed out on life. You know, a lot of people put work before everything, including their family, events, social events, doing things with friends and family. People miss out on a lot of stuff because they're working. And it doesn't have to be that way. And obviously, the earlier you retire, then the faster you'll be able to start enjoying those things as well. Nice fish, man. It's a big one. It's so in their world of fishing, you didn't even hear me or see me filming the fish. I wonder if that's going to be dinner tonight. Now, the third reason to retire early is because it can give you a chance to do things that you didn't have a chance to do before. Like, you can redefine what work means to you. It doesn't mean that you have to sit there and do nothing, and it doesn't mean that you actually have to stop working. Maybe you can work a part-time job in like a music store, something you've always wanted to do. Maybe you can be a freelancer with the skills that you obtain throughout your working career and make a little extra money part-time. Or you can turn a hobby into a side hustle. Like, for example, that's what my mother has done. She retired a little over a year ago now, and she is doing exactly that. She has turned a hobby into a side hustle. She makes a bunch of arts and crafts. She's been going to craft shows monthly, and she's been selling those crafts, and something that she enjoys doing. So that's a cool way to transition into retirement and still do something that you love to do, but maybe pick up a few extra bucks along the way. And when you're working all the time, you just don't have time for those passion projects. Now, the fourth reason to retire early, which I think is a big one and probably my favorite, is the health benefits. You have chronic stress when you work long hours. You know, that's linked to serious health issues that you can develop, like heart disease, cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, you name it. And when you retire early, a lot of that stress can melt away and can really increase your well-being in so many different ways. Now, if you're retiring early and you're going to be worried every single day about where your next dollar is going to come from, that's something that's not going to reduce your stress. Unfortunately, for somebody like that, it's going to increase their stress, and that's a problem. So once again, sometimes this only applies if you've already planned well for retirement and you know that you're going to have enough money in retirement. Because if you don't, then you could really be setting yourself up for disaster and have more stress retired than when you were working. Now, the fifth reason to retire early is kind of an obvious one, and that is that you are not promised tomorrow. Nobody ever is. And obviously, the longer we march on in life, the closer we get to the end. And the earlier you retire just gives you more years to enjoy your life and more chances that you're going to have a longer retirement. I don't know how many times I've heard really sad stories of people that win the lottery, for example, and then within the year, they're dead, or they retire and 6 months later, they're dead and never really got to fully enjoy a retired life. And the longer you work, the more you're missing out on your younger, more vibrant years, rather than fighting health issues, maybe not being able to do as much as you could when you were younger. Because truly the saddest stories come from people who just worked for too long and never got to enjoy the life that they saved for. And once again, this goes back to, if you don't have anything saved for retirement and you're planning on working till you're dead, I guess this doesn't really apply to you. This only applies to people who have had the ambition and the goal to retire and have actually been saving towards it and are getting close to the finish line and just debating, should I do it now or later? Now let's look at the complete flip side of this, and let's look at 5 reasons of why you should delay your retirement. And some of them are just as valid as the reasons to retire early. You know, the number one thing, especially I would consider right now, is the bad economy. You know, all the uncertainty that we have floating around right now and not knowing what's going to happen tomorrow in terms of inflation, in terms of the tariffs, in terms of how much the cost of living is going to be in the next 5 years, what's going to happen to your stock portfolio. There's a lot of question marks out there right now, more than there was 5 years ago, for example, before the pandemic. And when we're living through volatile times, you know, people are worried about recession, people are worried about market instability, people are worried about all of the unpredictability. It might make you second guess whether now is a good time to retire or not. But going back to what I was saying before, if you have enough money and you could retire today without worrying about all that stuff, then it's probably worth it. You know, what is really the reason to continue working if you've already saved enough? That's the person who should really be looking at, maybe I should just let go and enjoy what I have left. But the second reason not to retire early kind of speaks to a lot of the people who aren't prepared yet, or people who aren't really sure if they are prepared and might need more time to figure out if they are. And that is, keeping a job offers you some security and stability. You know, if you're still working, then holding on to your job gives you a paycheck during an unstable economy. It doesn't mean you're going to have that paycheck forever. Doesn't mean you're not susceptible to being laid off like so many people are being laid off right now. But if you have a paycheck and you're not losing your job, well, that puts you ahead of the average person who is losing their job right now. And I've shown numerous examples in my recent videos of how hard it's been for people to get jobs after they lose a job right now. You don't want to be in that position. So if you enjoy your job and you're making good money, you like your work life, it might be worth it to hang on for a couple more years until some of this economic uncertainty passes. And it gives you a few extra years to save even more for retirement. But I would really only be considering this one if you're unsure if you've saved enough already or not. Also, I would only be considering it if you really like your job and you're just grateful to have one still and don't mind working a couple more years. Now, the third reason to continue working and delay retirement is that it buys you more time to save and plan. Once again, playing catch up. If you need more time to save for retirement and play catch up in your later years, this can be a good reason to continue working, because after you reach a certain age, you're able to contribute more to your retirement accounts to essentially play catch up and get to a better place so you feel more financially secure once you actually pull the trigger and you do retire. Even just contributing a few extra $1,000s per year to your retirement funds can add up, especially if your portfolio is doing well. And let's face it, a lot of people haven't even calculated how much they really need for retirement. So if you're heading into your 60s, you're thinking about retiring, but you're not really sure when you should do it, now's a good time to start doing the math and figuring out, are you going to be able to, and by when? And instead of just taking that Social Security check at 62 and quitting, it might make sense to keep going a little bit longer. And speaking of Social Security, that brings me right into the fourth reason to continue working a little bit longer, because waiting increases your Social Security benefits. You know, I did a video about this recently, and literally over 80% of Americans take their Social Security benefits before they reach full retirement age. So not very many people bring it to maturity and collect the full amount. But if you're in a very stable position, like I said, and you like your job, and there's no reason that you can think of to retire early, say you've already done a lot of fun things and you're not missing out on family events, maybe you're not working so hard anymore, then delaying your retirement can get you more money in Social Security. And sometimes people who take Social Security too early, that can make a difference between getting an extra $500-600 a month in their Social Security check, and that sometimes makes the difference of if you're able to make ends meet as the cost of living continues to rise. And perhaps one of the most important reasons, and the fifth reason to continue working longer, is because retirement is about more than just money. It's about having social support. It's about having relationships and community. And, you know, loneliness is a rising epidemic across all age demographics. Older generations are included in this as well. And if your entire life and your entire social life is wrapped up in your job, if you quit, you can severely limit your social interactions moving forward, and people can get depressed and start developing anxiety issues. So continuing to work, or just working part-time at least, or volunteering, or planning to spend more time with family or friends in retirement can make a huge difference in how you feel later on. Before you just pull the trigger and retire, it's good to have those plans set up in advance. That way you can live a fulfilling life from day one as soon as you retire. Now, one of the reasons I mentioned of why you might want to hang on and work a few more years is so that way you have more time to plan for your expenses in retirement. Well, here's something relevant that anybody considering retirement needs to know, which is how much the average retired person spends per month. And I think it's going to surprise you, and it's probably more than you think. And I'm not saying that everybody will spend this much, or you have to spend this much, or retirement is going to suck. This is just the average, and it can really add up if you're not financially prepared. But according to the BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average retired person right now is spending $5,000 per month. That's a lot of money, guys. That's $60,000 a year. And this is from data that was collected in 2023. And obviously inflation has been a huge problem since then. So I'd be willing to bet that the average retiree is actually spending more than that now, probably more like $65,000 a year, if not higher. And the thing is, when you retire, none of those normal expenses go away. You still have to pay for housing if you haven't paid off your mortgage, which is one of the reasons people advocate for paying off your mortgage before you retire. You still have property taxes no matter what. You still got your utilities. You still got maintenance on the house. You still got entertainment. You still got going out to eat and anything else you're going to do for fun and enjoy your retirement. Then, of course, you have healthcare costs, which really go up as you get older. Food isn't getting any cheaper. Your transportation expenses might drop now that you don't have to commute to work anymore, but you still have to pay and maintain a car if you want to have one, unless you want to rent a car or do ride sharing every time you need to go somewhere. So the point is that the expenses never end, and people spend a lot of money in retirement. Now, I have heard from quite a few people who watch this channel who have written me emails and written in the comment section saying that, hey Michael, I live a great life only on my Social Security check. And the average Social Security check right now is $2,000 a month. So if you can live on just that and feel comfortable and have a fulfilling life on that, then congratulations, that's awesome. But the fact of the matter is, it's impossible to live on $2,000 a month in many areas of the country. So you're going to have to live in a very low cost of living area, have a home that's fully paid off with low maintenance, low property taxes, things like that, in order to be able to afford to live on only $2,000 a month. That's not going to be realistic for the vast majority of retirees. And don't forget that the median 401k balance right now for people who are ages 60 to 69 years old is only $210,000. So you got to sit there and be realistic and ask yourself, is that 200 grand plus a Social Security check each month going to be enough to last me for the rest of my life? You know, the average balance is $573,000, but the fact is that the millionaires and the people who have saved millions and millions of dollars for retirement bring up the average so much that that's not a very realistic reflection of what most people have saved for retirement. And once you retire, that number is going to start shrinking because you're going to be withdrawing more than your portfolio's making each year. And so that's going to continue to drain your savings and how much money you have available, which is why it's so important to really look at your budget and figure out how much you're going to need in retirement and be realistic about it. Don't say, well, I think we can get by on this and that. You don't want to get by. You want to know that bills are paid, and you want to know that you're going to be able to live a good life. Otherwise, it might make sense to just continue working in some form or another. Because even in the cheapest places in the country to retire, it's still expensive, guys. Like when I saw this, I was blown away. Like the average expenses in the cheapest states to retire in are anywhere between $60,000 to $80,000 a year for retirees. Like, take a look at this list. I'll flash it on the screen and we can kind of go through this together. Kansas is the cheapest state in America to retire in. And they're looking at, if you have $452,000 saved for retirement and your annual expenses are $60,000, which is right what we just talked about, that only gives you 7.5 years of retirement. What happens after that? That's in the least expensive state. So let's say you're even able to cut that number in half and live on only $30,000 a year. You're still only looking at 15 years of comfortable retirement. So something to seriously consider here. And it only gets worse from there.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I watch your videos.
Oh, you do? What's your name?
I'm Bethany.
Bethany?
Yeah,
nice to meet you.
Say hey. Oh, is that Michael?
Yeah, it's me.
That's pretty cool. It's awesome to meet you in person.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying hello.
Yeah, of course. I'm excited to see what your next video is.
Yeah, this one's going to be about retirement.
Oh, nice. Probably doesn't apply to me.
One day it will.
One day.
That's why I'm already getting ahead of the curve. We get old fast, you know?
Yeah.
And it's good for people who are younger to understand these things, because I feel like you just said, well, it doesn't affect me now, but if you don't start thinking about it now and you don't worry about it now, then it doesn't happen, you know?
Well, who knows? I'm working on launching a tech company, so.
Oh, nice.
Like, hopefully retirement will come sooner than most get, but.
If you get lucky, you might hit the jackpot.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, it's really cool to see you out here walking around. I was like, is that him? Is it gonna be weird if I go say hey?
No, not at all.
But yeah, it's really cool to watch your videos, and I've learned a lot, so.
All right.
Even just watching about like real estate in the area. We bought a house in Orlando, like peak worst time, like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Whenever
you still own it?
We sold it, actually. We got lucky. We sold it for like teeny bit more than we paid for it.
Yeah.
Which is not terrible. I know there's a lot of people that are kind of stuck in their homes right now, which is like rough in the Florida market. Insurance like doubled. Property taxes like doubled. Everything was really bad after we bought it, but
yeah,
we sold it. So
that's happened to everybody. I'm glad you got out, because especially if you're able to make a small profit right now. I'm hardly seeing anybody making profits anymore unless you bought a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, it was in rough condition. I say it was a house, but you know, it needed like new walls and new roof and new electric and like all these things that we put money into.
So you essentially flipped it.
So yeah, we flipped it pretty much. We moved in and then we moved to Tennessee for a job, and then we were like, we don't need this house anymore. Now we're back on vacation, but yeah.
So you're living here now in Miami Beach?
We actually are from Miami.
Oh.
Moved to Orlando to buy a house because we couldn't afford houses here, and then got a job offer in Tennessee, and we were like, we don't need the house anymore. So we tried to rent it out. The rental market's really bad too. So like the odds of renting something for like the high mortgage you're paying on it.
That was a smart move, because the rent's probably just going to go down and the expenses are going to go up, you know?
I know. I was like, and it
Good
just
for
kept
you.
stacking up. We were like, oh, we got to get trees removed, and hurricane season's coming again. And
the video I released today was literally just talking about that, you know? Like people are selling houses because they're like, I didn't know it was going to cost this much.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I feel like, I think there's a right way to buy a house and a wrong way to buy a house. And I think a lot of people in my generation don't really know the right way to buy houses. We just kind of bought the dream of own a house.
That's right.
And then we were like, oh, I want a house. And then we didn't really like figure out like what it should be. I think for me, what I realized is I never want to buy a house that was used as a rental for 20 years, because that means the owner probably didn't. They most likely didn't do as much as they should have if they were living there themselves.
Right.
So, you know, you could find a good property that was a rental before, but I just don't know if it's taken as good of care of as it could be. So,
Yeah, it's just hard to say. I mean, I've seen houses too that they've owned since the 70s and it's in terrible condition also. So, they live there the whole time. It just kind of depends,
Yeah, it's hard to find something that, and the house was built in this, like, I think 56. So it's been through a lot of hurricanes. It never had a roof put on until we bought it. Like, I don't know how they got away with that for 50 years.
I don't know either.
But,
especially with the insurance situation now, they're forcing everybody to put the new roof.
Yeah, so we did all the things that you had to do, but I was like, this is not what I pictured. Like my costs going down every month because my monthly would be locked in, and then I was like, my monthly is not locked in. My insurance went up, my taxes went up, and I was like, this is not a locked in price.
That's right.
I was like, I would have been better off renting because I could have hopped around to other places in the meantime, like find a better price or shop around. You can't shop around once you buy a house. Like you're there unless it's an investment property that you're renting out.
That's right.
But yeah, I've learned a lot watching your videos.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what would your advice be then, as somebody who's been through this and seen my videos? What would you tell anybody who's looking at buying a house right now?
I am not a professional, but what I would say is I am personally considering buying again, but I'm waiting until things get a little better. I also invest in stocks, and I've learned a lot in my 5-6 years of investing in stocks, and I've gotten a lot better at it. And I think there's a lot of chasing in stocks, and I think that the housing market's the same. Everyone's buying, and you're like, I'm going to jump in too.
Yep.
So you chase, and then that's when everything drops, just like the stock market. You never want to chase. So don't chase. Wait for the right moment. The right moment will come. It will. It may take time, and it's painful to wait sometimes. And you're like, oh, but I really want a house now, and I really want to do the things now, and everyone else is doing it. But it's better just to not get yourself in a bad situation. Just wait. Trust me. And if you wait, it'll be so much better long term.
It makes me so happy to hear you say that.
Your videos are teaching people.
I appreciate that.
I learned a lot.
Well, it's nice to meet you, Bethany.
Yeah.
Shout out to Bethany and listen to her advice. I really love when people just find me and stop me when I'm shooting the videos, so I'm really glad that Bethany did that. And everything that she said are the things that I've been telling people about on my channel. I literally just released a video, like probably, I don't know, a few days ago by the time you see this, talking about exactly what she just went through, about people, in the younger generations who decided to go through with it. People were told to buy a house. It didn't really work out the way they thought. And now they sold and they're renting and wait and see what happens. And I just love that, I've had a big enough influence where people like her are doing it and doing it in real life and learning those things and learning from their mistakes, and they're going to make much better sound decisions later on. So makes me happy to hear that. Anyways, back to the retirement story. Looking at the states that I'm putting up here, you guys can see that the retirement savings doesn't go very far in even the 10 cheapest states throughout the country. We're talking in Iowa, it's going to last for 7.5 years. In Minnesota, it's going to last for 7 years. In Virginia, it's 7 years. Pennsylvania, 7 years. Illinois, 7. Connecticut, 7. Basically, 7 to 7.5 years at best of comfortable retirement, if you even have over $400K saved for retirement. And spending anywhere between $60,000 to $80,000 per year in the cheapest retirement states is why so many people are leaving the United States and moving to other areas of the world where they can get away with, you're spending $60,000 a year, you can live like a king rather than try to just scrape by. Or maybe you can get away with living on only $15,000 or $20,000 a year in the cheaper cost of living areas. And what that allows you to do is stretch your retirement savings much further than it would ever go here and live a higher quality of life. So it's no wonder that so many Americans are leaving. And I would expect that trend to continue as life only gets more expensive here in the US. The problem is the areas where all these expats are moving to are also going to continue to get more expensive, and that quality of life, how far the money goes, is going to continue diminishing in those areas over time as well. So enjoy it while you can if you're an expat living the dream life somewhere abroad. And honestly, I don't think we're even going to be discussing retirement in the next decade or two for the average person, because it seems like it's just going to be something completely out of reach if things keep going on this trajectory. The United States is in so much debt, the average American is in so much debt, and retirement is going to be just a thing of the past, most likely within the next 20 years, unless you're in the top 10%. That's what I'm thinking. But anyways, let me know what you guys think about this. Do you think it's better to retire early or delay retirement? Make sure you give your reasons below, because people read these comments who are looking for advice from people who are living it right now. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you don't want to wait for my next video to come out, check out this one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.